Hi. Let's wait for a few people to come in. Hi, welcome. It's 10 p.m. The news today. We're here to talk about the history of net art. My name is Annika. Hi, Kaken. My name is Annika. Johan König and I curate the exhibition series The Artist is Online. Last week we opened the first digital exhibition in this series. It's titled Surprisingly This Rather Works, and it's a solo show by the Berlin-based artist Manuel Rosner. You can visit the exhibition by downloading the app. You can find it in the App Store and in the Google Play Store. On the occasion of this exhibition series, Johan and I talk to experts in the field of net art, post-internet art, digital art, and tonight our guest is Dragan Espenschied, and he's the preservation director of Rhizome. Let's see if we can find him. There he is. He's connecting.
Okay.
Hi, Dragan.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello. Okay.
Good. There's a bookshelf in the
Okay.
background.
Yes. Yeah. I want to move to that bookshelf.
Yeah. Go to the shelf. I think that's what you need for live streams these
Yes.
days. Yes. Man in front of bookshelf.
Yeah.
I've heard. Good. Oh, there's a book in the background. We're also going to talk about.
Oh, what a coincidence! Yeah.
I have it here as well. Wait, this is Johan's book. Hi, Nicole. This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are the preservation director of Rhizome. Could you give us a brief introduction of what Rhizome is and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So Rhizome is a digital arts organization that was founded on the internet in 1996 already by internet artists, new media artists, and it has existed ever since. Since 1999, Rhizome is kind of invested in preserving net art and has released the art base in that year, which is at that point it was an open accession, like futuristic archive for an art form that wasn't yet recognized as an art form. So the idea was to create an archive so that it becomes recognized. And it was open access at the time, which was institutionally very radical. So everyone could basically upload something and claim that they are net artists now, which worked quite well. Yeah, and I'm the preservation director since 2014 at Rhizome. So my task is to take care of the existing collection, which is like more than 2,000 pieces, with at various states of operation, and also to expand the possibilities that exist for preservation, to do research in that field with my team, and also, of course, support the artistic programming as much as possible. For example, to bring back and restore or preserve pieces that are at risk, or bring back one that has been lost or has been damaged, or whatever other bad things happen to them.
And you're based in Stuttgart, in Germany, right? And Rhizome is sort of part of the new museum in New York. So how do you work as a team? Do you have to be in New York from time to time?
Yes, yeah. That's very helpful indeed. Yeah, but most of the time I work remotely, and I'm in New York four times a year, like very regularly, and many people of the team are actually remote and not in New York.
And is it? I think you're wearing your. Are you wearing your Internet Explorer? Yes.
Yeah.
I asked you to do it. Thank you for doing it. I love it so much. It's so good.
For you.
Yeah. I mean, you have two, right? Ulja has one, a different one, and you have this one. So is it?
Yeah, she has.
Yeah.
She has the Netscape pullover, and I have the Internet Explorer one.
Yeah. If you want to see the other jumper, go to my Instagram profile and scroll down a bit, and you can see Dragan and Ulja wearing the jumpers. Yesterday I talked to Wade Wallerstein about digital art, I think it would be interesting to hear from you a bit about net art. So let's start with the definition of what net art is.
Especially for the net art anthology program, Rhizome defined net art as art that acts upon the network or is acted upon the net, that the network acts upon the art. So that is, within where basically network components are at the core of the pieces. And that doesn't mean necessarily that everything has to be in a computer or in a browser or in a phone or whatever, but that even artifacts that exist outside of computers and networks are created with the network interaction in mind. It might be, I don't know, a URL drawn on the street or something.
And how has net art evolved in the last couple of years? I mean, does it still exist, or was it, I mean, then there was internet art, then there was post-internet art, and now there's maybe something you could call social media art. And is there still net art? And one thing that just came to my mind is that I saw a tweet from Lialina. She's one of the icons of net art. I think I can say that. And she tweeted that over the last couple of weeks, so many museums and institutions, whatever, contacted her, and that they texted her and said, well, since museums and galleries are closed. So she wasn't really impressed by that. But I mean, has net art been gone and been replaced by post-internet art? And now that there's nothing else sort of we can look at, is there a new interest?
I mean, let's start backwards here, I guess. At the moment, of course, the physical spaces are closed, and many institutions rush online to I don't know, replicate what they have learned in business meetings, like for their audiences. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's if something is on the internet, I wouldn't necessarily call it net art, because sometimes, or like in many of these cases, the network is just a transport medium. It is not taken into account when the art is created or the event is planned or things like that. It is also, I think, I wouldn't say that post-internet art is not cannot fly under the umbrella of net art, as long as it takes the network into account, as long as the network is a core component of the pieces. I mean, we have, the Art Happens Here was the actual exhibition in physical space at the New Museum for the net art anthology, and most of the items in the exhibition are printouts or sculpture or things like that. So it can of course work. You might call them post-internet art, sure, but that's part of.
But the umbrella would be net art, right?
I'm seeing everything from as a conservator. I'm seeing everything very much from a historic perspective, and I'm kind of careful when, I don't know, every 10 minutes a new art movement is announced. So I think post-internet art is was definitely absolutely visible and absolutely had an impact, and absolutely is a term that has stuck and is really useful. But I think net art has never gone away. It's just that it has become, like for many artists, the internet has become one of the tools basically in their toolkit, and you rarely find today like dedicated artists that would just work on the net, or would like say this is my main practice. And there was like in the 90s when the net, the web especially, really took off. There was a lot of institutional interest from different places trying to incorporate this new movement that was very vibrant into their programming and collecting. But Yeah, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. It has in many cases been pushed into something like a performance space, like where you would have a music performance one night in a museum or a theater performance or something like that. So things that would evaporate relatively quickly after they happened. I mean, Documenta X was a famous example where there was a huge net art in a huge net art floor, even a complete hall with like net artists working on their pieces. But when the exhibition closed, I don't know, everything they created was just turned off. The server was turned off basically, so because the time was over. And yeah, institutions kind of had to and still have to adapt to how net artists work and how this art is created and how it's meant to be living.
I mean, you've mentioned one important point when it comes to net art, and especially the history of net art. I mean, Panke Gallery in Berlin. What was the title of the show? Berlin Net Art of the 90s or so? Was that the title? The bigger group show they did, and it's very interesting that they tried to make older pieces work, and it was very difficult for them to find computers and hardware and so on. So how do you preserve net art?
There are different approaches, and one approach is trying to preserve hardware and really reconstruct everything as exactly as it was, or at least as it was for one person or for an amount of people. At Rhizome, we are trying to, what I basically did my first day when I arrived there is we had a bunch of old computers, and I announced on Twitter that anyone who wants them can take them. Because come and pick them up. We also had them. It's not that I don't like hardware, but for an institution like Rhizome that exists like mostly on the internet, where the net is our main exhibition platform, the browser is our gallery, so to say. We are. It's just not sustainable. It takes an incredible amount of time and knowledge to keep hardware working, and there are some institutions who are pretty good at it, who have some experienced technicians.
For example, which institutions would that be?
ZKM, for example. Panke Gallery seems to be doing a great job too. There's Lima in the Netherlands that is keeping old video equipment mostly, and in any basically media restoration university where this is offered, there's piles of old equipment. But this doesn't, sometimes this interferes with the accessibility of net art. So if that means that someone has to go to a certain place and then stand in line to see something, if you want to do that, then you can go to a VR exhibition or something.
That's why we decided to make a smartphone game, sort of, or smartphone accessible exhibition out of Manuel's VR piece, because it was planned to be part of a bigger group show, which is titled The Artist is Online. And then we thought, well, only very few people might be able to see it. And then we're like, okay, how can we make it accessible to sort of everyone all over the world, and even to people who can't come to the exhibition space? And then Manuel made the app and so on.
So how we approach this with legacy pieces is that we use network preservation in the form of web archiving and emulation, and we have like I would say a very impressive infrastructure where we can put these pieces together and, for example, launch a website that was created in 1997 in the exact browser that was common at that point in time. We can run it within, I don't know, a Macintosh operating system 7, so to see how these pieces are all, they are not like taking over your full screen, or they are not trying to work like, I don't know, classic CD-ROM games or mobile apps that, try to make something else out of your computer, but it's more like most net art knows kind of where it's located on the net, and that there's a browser around it. And that, so this is how we are trying to to basically draw a boundary around pieces that are typically boundless, and then decide in what kind of context you want to put it, like what kind of technological context. I mean, in many cases, it's also, and this is true for lots of art that involves computers, that is, once the art enters an institution, it's already broken. So you get lots of things in a broken state, and then we have to do some reconstruction, or repairs or things like that. But usually we try not to do that, because the art itself doesn't, or the artifacts themselves, they don't decay. There's just the environment around them changes. So we focus more on the environments than on the actual pieces.
And how did you put together this thing? I mean, it's massive. It's 440 pages, I guess. And I mean, how did you decide what to include in this project? I mean, was it difficult to decide?
Luckily I wasn't so much involved in these artistic choices. I'm the preservation person, and so the programming and curation was mainly done by Michael Connor and Arya Dean. I mean, Rhizome is still a very small organization, very very fluid. So of course everyone's input was welcome. But the main concept behind it is that we are not trying to, we were not trying to establish certain genres or to contextualize pieces around topics or things like that, but it's just chronological. And trying to also find some pieces that were maybe back in the day when they were released didn't get all of the attention that they maybe deserved. Some of them are also, of course, pretty famous pieces. But there was definitely also an attempt to especially integrate some works from South America, from Eastern Europe, I mean, if you look at the official history of net art and in general art that involves anything that is, I don't know, driven by electricity, it's a lot of dudes. So we were trying to see what other things were there as well.
And can you show? I mean, do you have a computer around so that you could show us the? I mean,
no, I will try.
Because there's not all of the book, but everything is online, and you can find it via archive.rhizome.org, right?
No, it's anthology.rhizome.org.
Yeah, that's it.
So here we go. I think I can turn my camera. Oh, so here is it. That's the website. It has 100 pieces, so we were releasing or showing one piece a week for 2 years. Let's try one. Maybe let's try a really complicated one, because many people find it difficult to operate that one. So I would try the Web Stalker by the British group IOD, which was a browser that is made by artists from 1997. It was available for download and also distributed on disk. And you see here, this is how this works. You basically use Skype with an old computer that's running in the cloud. Everyone who wants to, you see it even crashes like the original Windows 98. That's of course great. Okay. It works exactly. That's the ultimate proof.
So you're surprised. That's good.
No, I've seen this happen, but of course it always happens when you're showing it. Let's see. While Windows 98 comes up, maybe we can show this one here. That is a work that is by Group Z from Belgium, which is a piece that is created from Netscape version 2, which just came out in 1995, and it has it uses certain properties of that browser that were later discontinued. It's I mean, yeah, this is something for the true heads. If you see here how the frame borders are melting together in that browser, that is something that has later been skipped. Yeah, and you see how the scroll bars and the default elements of the browser basically use kind of as sculptural elements. It's a hypertext. Let's see. It has a very mysterious navigation, and especially for that time, in incredible use of web graphics and the specificity of web graphics, transparency, differing, and things like that. Let's see here, the web stalker is there. So this is a browser that has been made by artists, and it is pretty difficult to use. We included instructions here, so I'm using it here with a certain URL that I need to copy, and I can draw a frame here. This browser also works by itself. It browses by itself, and it's let me paste the URL here. And then it doesn't show you any web pages or any images or so, but it just shows you the structure of the net that it's like visiting. So I can also here take certain elements of that structure where the browser is going. I can see the HTML source code here as an HTML stream. But it's like, yeah, it's a completely autonomous browser that does what it wants. You can, however, I don't know, customize it to your liking a little bit.
I mean, it's Olia's iconic work, My Boyfriend Came Back from the War. Do you have it in the anthology? Is it possible?
Sure.
Can you show it?
Yeah,
that might be interesting. Is she watching?
No.
Okay, we're going to put this up on YouTube, and then you can show it.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, let me see. I need to close these ones. Yeah. So this is the work My Boyfriend Came Back from the War from 1996, which also was specific to a certain version of Netscape, version 3. And as you can see, it's also loading very slowly. These images are like hyper optimized for dial-up mode and very slow internet speed. But yeah, so you can, like nowadays, you can click through this whole thing in 10 seconds. But it's supposed to be more of a slow-paced thing. So the speed had to be adapted, and you also see how you can see the images are loading. Which all are really part of the materiality of that piece.
Great. I mean, do you want to show one last piece, and then we open the conversation up because we can do a Q&A. And I mean, I turned the comments off because then people wouldn't be able to see the pieces, but you can send via pressing on the question mark. You can send in questions, and then Dragan is going to answer them.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Is there other questions coming in already? I only see hearts bubbling.
Yeah, but do you want to show one last piece, and then people have the chance to think about very complicated and deep questions for you?
Yeah, simple questions are also fine. I love them. Yeah, this is a piece called Bodies Incorporated by Victoria Wessner, and I wanted to show it because it started in 1996 and used Web 3D graphics. It is a very funny project where it's basically a parody of a 90s e-commerce site where you can buy a body for yourself and construct it, and it will actually show you 3D models of that body, and there's also a graveyard of dead bodies that people have created and then later abandoned. So you can see this is basically the main navigation here. it is kind of as mysterious as contemporary 3D applications. But I think it is, and that's something that I'm especially invested in, is that it is important that this stuff is not forgotten, so that artists today can refer back to like a tradition that they may be working in, or and also that it's clear that maybe this looks more pixelated and the resolution is pretty low, but many of these concepts, this is like the metadata for a created body. Let's see if I can go to the necropolis with the dead people. But yeah, many of these concepts have been discussed, they have been implemented, they have been actually pretty well executed in as net art, and I think it can only improve the discourse and the quality of art that is created now if all of this is still accessible. Oh yeah, here we see some of the bodies.
So do we want to mention the URL again? It's anthology.rhizome.org, right?
Yes, that's right.
Then you can browse through it. Oh, because people were asking for.
Yeah, that's the book. You can get it on rhizome.org, myshopify.com.
Okay, cool. So people who want to buy the book, because we mentioned it yesterday when I was speaking to Wade. This is the book. It's 440 pages. I got it last year from you. I guess you sent it to me. So thank you very much for this. Okay, so people, you now can answer questions. You can ask questions.
I'm also taking answers. That's great.
That would be also funny. We could ask questions to the audience and about very complicated questions about the history of net art, and they would have to answer it. And Manuel is watching as well. So
I'm back at the bookshelf. I think this is adequate for questions.
So let me read this. Okay, here's a good question. Thank you, Michael, for asking it. Glad to see you're watching. Hi. Is there an art market around net art? What is
I think, of course, there is an art market. It's just not very similar to what you would call a traditional art market, or maybe even the new media art market, because it is mainly institutions and collectors are interested in it that see the cultural value of the work and not see it as a way to do speculation or to hoard stuff in their vaults. It doesn't make sense to hoard it or to lock it away and wait until the price goes up. It only has value when it's accessible. And that is also a very public activity that many collectors are not so comfortable with, I think. It is also sometimes difficult to edition net art, so that it fits into art market mechanisms. But yeah, we have had some successes in that regard too.
Something just came to my mind. I wrote about, I think that was last year, I wrote about Olia's presence at the Art Berlin with Rhizome. That was last year, was it?
Yes, that's right.
That was last year. Rhizome is a gallery in Switzerland that works with a lot of artists in the fields of net art and post-internet art. And I think I compared Olia, or like Olia's success, Olia Lialina's success, to the success of Gerhard Richter. Because I mean, she's in this scene, she's, I think, as famous as him, but she's not as rich as him. And yeah, I mean, when Olia does sell a website or so, how does that work exactly? I mean, if you want to buy a piece from her, for example.
This is something that is yeah, I think this is how to say. This is true for a lot of artists that deal with intangible work, like things that cannot move through a museum door, basically. There are many ways how it could be done, and in the end, it boils down to contracts and agreements, and also what are the constraints of a work. It could be that I don't know, an institution or collector starts hosting a piece, or gets a copy and can host a piece under their own URL. Maybe the URL is part of the piece. This is, for example, how Rosendahl is selling things like per URL, which is also technically challenging for most collectors. It could also be that some artists even make it public, or it's on commission. It's based on commission, and then there's a handover, like upload to an institutional server or things like that. It's definitely all. It comes down to agreements. It is, and that is probably something that makes it a little bit more difficult than to say I'm getting a painting.
Here's an interesting question from Manuel. Can you read it? So digital artworks will last longer than physical pieces. Is that true?
It is, only time will tell. I mean, we have a few decades of digital works, and we have thousands of years of non-digital works. And some of the figurats have stood the test of time. We will see how this turns out. I mean, I would definitely hope that especially the larger museums that are kind of sleeping on this and are kind of having I think the most relevant art of our time right now just fly by them because they don't have a way of collecting to engage more, so that that there is a chance. I mean, Rhizome is doing pretty well in that regard, I guess. But we can't do it all on our own.
That's true. Wait, let's take two more questions, okay?
Sure.
What are the evaluation criteria you consider when you analyze or read, I would say, a piece of net art now? So I mean, as a preservation specialist, I have a specific view on this. So I'm looking at all of this as an in-between thing between artifactual work and performative work, and you kind of have to see what of that can be basically what kind of environment is required to keep the performance repeatable, and what is required to keep this repeatable performance, how it can be moved around. These are I think the basic criteria that I'm mostly interested in as a preservation person. So I'm not so much into, I don't know, asking artists how they felt when they created something or what this color should be. I'm not. This doesn't really help me. This is more for other people. Okay, good. So last question. Okay, this one. What are adequate ways to put on shows on the internet consisting of born digital pieces? What do you think does work?
I think, especially Rhizome has like a long history of declaring or like experimental exhibitions online, or also, I don't know, plain links. But I mean, in general, I would say links. Links is the best thing. And links can point anywhere, and with links you have the freest way to curate. If you're on platforms, usually the platforms have a lot of formal constraints that might be interesting, but that also might be in the way of putting out interesting work. Yeah, so I guess there are many ways to do it. But I mean, yeah, links has always worked.
Okay, cool. So I think that was it. Thank you, Dragan.
Yeah, sure.
We're going to be back tomorrow at 10 p.m. with Marissa Olsen. We're going to speak to her.
Yeah, don't miss that.
Yeah, don't miss that.
Don't.
Yeah. she's that's going to be very interesting because I mean post-internet art was sort of seen critical very fast. So let's see if that has changed and how it has changed. And Johan is going to be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for his 10 a.m. series. So I hope to see you. And thank you, Dragan. Say hi. Please say hi to Olia. I'm gonna send
Thank you, Annika. Yeah, I will.
so she can watch it. Thank you.
Sure.
Bye.
Okay. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. See you. Bye.